So there's a conversation you haven't had with your partner. You know the one. You've probably rehearsed it in the shower. You've started in your head on the drive home and talked yourself out of it by the time you got to the front door. You've almost said it 3 or 4 times, probably this very month, and decided to pull back at the last second. And every week that you don't have it, something small dies in your marriage. That's what I want to talk about today. Not the conversation, right? The reason that you're not having the conversation, because it's not the reason that you think. You're going to tell yourself it's the timing or the kids or your partner can't handle it right now because they're too busy or too stressed. You might even be thinking that it's not really a big deal. And none of those are true. The real reason is this. If you have that conversation, really have it, you have to become someone slightly different than who you've been. Someone more honest, someone who takes up a bit more space, someone who can survive their partner being upset with them. And that, not the conversation, is what you're actually afraid of. Most marriages aren't stuck because people can't communicate. Most marriages are stuck because one or both partners have gotten too good at staying small and editing themselves to keep the peace. And doing that has a price tag. And I'm going to talk about what that is today. So I'm Aaron McDougall. I'm a certified master relationship coach, and I teach long-term couples, people who still love each other, but just keep running the same fight, right? Or maybe have stopped fighting altogether and started drifting. I help them bring more connection and collaboration back. And the next few minutes, you're going to learn 3 things, right? You'll see the invisible pattern every long-term marriage tends to fall into and why it can look like peace, but actually just kills intimacy. And you'll understand what that restless feeling really is when you look at your life and think, is this it? And you'll get the one move, takes about 90 seconds or so to do, that changes a marriage faster than anything a therapist has ever given you. Here's what's actually happening in most long-term marriages. You've built a life with someone, right? You know them, they know you, and on the surface, it looks really healthy. Nobody's yelling, nobody's leaving, probably having dinner together, you co-parent, you share a bed. But underneath all of that, something else is running. You've both quietly built your lives around not upsetting each other. You've stopped bringing the hard stuff. You've shrunk certain parts of yourself so that your partner can stay comfortable or so you can stay comfortable. And honestly, they've done the exact same thing back to you. It's not peace, it's like a covert agreement. And there's a real word for it, which we call emotional fusion. Fusion is when two people got so good at managing each other's feelings that they stop being separate themselves, right? They're just fused together. And you can feel it when this is happening. There's a low grade tension or resentment that never fully lands. There's a conversation you probably both know you should be having and you keep not having. Sex is fine, parenting is fine, money's fine, everything's fine. And fine is typically where marriages, certainly intimacy, slowly go to die. And there's also a cost that most people don't see, right? The issues that you're not talking about, they don't disappear, they actually compound. And every year that you stay fused with your partner, you have less of yourself to bring when growth finally demands that of you, right? You're not saving the marriage by keeping the peace. You're actually spending it, right? So do something for me right now. right? What conversation have you not had with your partner in the last year that you know you should be having? And again, it's not because you're afraid of them. It's most likely because you're afraid of what you'd have to become or what would be created if you did have it. Keep that conversation in your head, right? Because we're going to come back to it. Now, here's what nobody really talks about when it comes to emotional fusion. It doesn't last. The sense of self is too strong. And at some point, this is different for everybody, something in you starts to stir, right? You start feeling bored or numb or disconnected. You catch yourself looking at your life and thinking, is this really it? Is this really the rest of my life over and over and over again? Most people read that as feeling wrong. They think something is wrong with the marriage. I've seen so many partners say it's over and it's never going to come back. So they think about leaving or they panic, sign up for another retreat, read another book, right? Get into another couples workshop. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that your sense of self is actually coming back online. It's starting to differentiate itself from your partner. The parts of you that got put away or edited to keep the peace, right? That bigger version, the one with the edges, the one who wants more. That version of you is knocking at the door. And the restlessness you're feeling, it's not your marriage failing. It's you asking yourself to do something differently, but not knowing how. And this is where most people hit what I call, a two-choice dilemma, right? You can keep yourself or you can keep the peace, but you can't do both forever. Most people try, right? They try for years. They try to grow just enough to feel alive, but not so much that their partner feels threatened by their growth, right? They update themselves in secret. It never works because a self that has to hide to exist is not a full self, right? It's like a hostage. Eventually, you hit a choice point. You either start telling the truth about who you're becoming and deal with everything that comes with that, or you find a way to make that feeling go away, pretend it doesn't exist. Most people pretend it doesn't exist. They sweep it under the rug. They say it is what it is. That's how marriages end. Not in one big fight, in 1,000 small choices to put yourself back down. All right, here's the second question for you. How long have you been calling boredom disconnection? Right? That's actually the bigger version of you asking, let's come online. Right? Sit with that because most people have never asked themselves that question in their life. They just think that, they're disconnected from their partner, but really they're bored. And so let's say you decide to stop trading yourself to keep the peace, right? You decide to have the hard conversation. You decide to set the boundary, to ask for what you actually want, especially in the bedroom, right? You say the thing. Now you're in new territory. And a lot of people tend to mess up this next part, right? This is where the move I promised you actually comes in. Here's what most couples therapists will teach you when you're sitting with them. They'll probably tell you to co-regulate, right? Your partner gets activated, so you help them calm down. You get activated, they help you calm down, and you soothe each other. It sounds like love. It probably even feels like intimacy. But I'm going to tell you something that most therapists will not tell you. In long-term gridlocked marriages, co-regulation is not the answer. It's actually more often than not part of the problem. Because if your nervous system needs your partner's nervous system to calm down, you're not two people in a relationship. You're just like one fused system wearing two bodies, right? The move that actually changes a marriage is actually the opposite. It's actually self-regulation while staying connected. You soothe yourself so you can stay in the room while your partner's uncomfortable with who you're becoming or a certain situation. Now, here's what that actually looks like, right? You bring up the hard thing. Your partner reacts. Maybe they get defensive or they shut down or they get cold or angry. Maybe they make it about them. Your body, it just lights up, right? Your chest gets tight. You want to fix it. You want to take it back. You want to shrink. You want to apologize. You want to do whatever it takes for the tension to go away. Don't. Stay in your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your breath. Stay soft, stay warm, stay connected, but don't collapse. Do that for 90 seconds. That's the move. Most people can't even do that. Their whole marriage has been built on collapsing the second their partner gets uncomfortable. Even worse, they try to avoid anything that could possibly create discomfort in their partner. But you have to be able to do this in order to create change. I worked with a client once. I'll call her Sarah. She was 10 years married. She had a couple kids. She spent 2 years in couples therapy learning how to communicate her needs. Her husband had learned to listen. On paper, they were doing all the right things. They had all the skills. But every time she brought something up that was hard, he'd go quiet. He'd shut down. And every time he shut down, Sarah, she would wait. She'd wait for him to come back before she could actually feel okay again. Right? They weren't communicating badly. They were communicating actually in a pretty awesome way. But they were inside a fused system. The shift didn't happen when they got better at talking. It happened when Sarah learned to stay okay inside of herself while her husband chose to shut down. She stopped needing him to regulate with her before she could regulate herself. And the moment that she stopped needing him to feel safe, well, he came back even faster. Every single time. Right? That's the whole game. Not distance, not walls, self-possession inside of connection. Right? If you want to actually practice this at home, I built a free guide. It's called a Connection Blueprint. Short. It's the first real move you can make this week. It's totally free. You can grab that in the description below. My gift to you. So, okay, here's one more piece. Right? It's probably the most important one. This video is not just for the partner who's growing, right? Which is probably you watching it now. But there's others here that are watching this that might be the other partner, right? The one whose partner has started changing. Something in you maybe doesn't like it, feels threatened by it. Maybe you can't even admit that to themselves, but you can feel it in your body. A tightness, a threat, a sense that the ground is shifting under you. So you do what, I call the pullback move. Maybe you say, I liked you better before. Or you've changed. Maybe it's, I don't know who you are anymore. Maybe you're just getting into more conflict. Maybe you go cold. Right? Maybe suddenly you feel yourself needing more attention than usual. Right? You're not a bad person for doing this. But what's actually happening is your partner growing is exposing your fusion to them. Their becoming is pulling on the part of you that got built around who they used to be. And instead of holding on to yourself through that, you're trying to pull them back so the ground can feel solid again. Right? You're kind of preventing their growth to feel safe. Right? And here's another question that might even be heavier for you. When your partner is growing and making changes, what do you feel in your body? And then what do you do to try to get rid of that feeling? If you catch yourself doing the pullback move, right, even once, you've probably just found the exact place where growth is waiting for you. If you try to convince them to change, if you complain about what they're doing, if you sabotage them, these are all ways that you try to keep things the same. I'll tell you an honest story about me and my wife, Kate. There was a season in our marriage where, I was the one who couldn't hold on to myself. I disappeared into work. I disappeared into building things, into being busy in a way that looked like discipline, right? I worked out. I did all the right things, but it was an avoidance tool, right? Kate would ask me what was going on, and I'd say nothing. "No, I'm just focused. Got to put my head down and grind it out." And we both took on that was true. The turning point on this wasn't when I decided to work less. It was when I admitted to myself first and then to her that the work was a place that I went to so that I didn't have to feel what was going on in my body, right? That was the 90 seconds that I was avoiding. Honestly, it probably took me 2 years to take that 90 seconds. And once you see that in yourself, it's very hard to unsee, right? Every marriage that ends, like really ends, typically ends for the same reason. One or both partners couldn't hold on to themselves, right? That's the whole autopsy. It's not the money or the sex or the in-laws or the parenting, right? Those are the fights. But the disease underneath, the disease is that two people stop being able to be separate selves who actively chose each other and instead became two halves who held each other up. So neither one had to stand alone, right? But if one person removes that, the other person falls. So you have to be fused together. And here's what I want you to understand before I close this video. The choice that you're facing now isn't grow or don't grow, right? The choice is this. Am I willing to hold on to myself while my partner reacts to me growing? That's the whole thing. That's like one capacity, right? It decides whether your marriage becomes a crucible, right? That forges two whole people, or a cage that slowly shrinks both of you. Everything else is downstream from that, right? Your marriage isn't broken. It's a crucible. It's a vessel for pressure, for heat, for growth, for friction. And it's trying to forge two people who can actually stand next to each other as whole selves, not two halves propping each other up, right? The pain that you're feeling isn't a sign that things are ending. It's a sign that your marriage is working. The question is whether you're going to let it help you grow. So here's what I want you to focus on this week, right? Not next month, this week. It's my challenge for you. Go to your partner. I don't want you to ask them to change. I don't want you to fix anything. I don't want you to promise anything, right? I want you to say something like this, and you can put this in your own words. I'm changing. I'm not leaving. And I'm not going to ask you to change with me. But I can't keep pretending that staying small and preventing me being myself is love. And that's the whole move, right? It's not a demand. It's not an ultimatum. It's actually just a declaration of self to you and to your partner. You're telling your partner who you're becoming. And you're telling yourself at the same time, right? You're refusing to outsource the outcome to their reaction. And if that feels too big, right? If you need something smaller, start smaller, right? Maybe start with the next time your partner gets upset with you. Don't apologize right away for 90 seconds. Just stay. Feel your feet on the floor. Breathe. Don't fix it. Don't defend. Don't take it back. Don't collapse. Just 90 seconds of not disappearing. That's a practice, right? That's where this whole thing starts. If you do that once a week, you're going to feel something shift, right? I promise you. Now, listen, if you watch this whole video, that tells me that something in it is alive for you. I know that. And if you're ready to actually do this work, not just think about it, I do a call called the MAP call. It's a marriage action plan. It's a real conversation where we can look at what's actually happening between you and your partner, where you're stuck, and whether the work I do is the right next step. If it's a fit, we can talk about what it looks like to work together. If not, you'll leave the call with more clarity than you came in with. These calls are totally free. The link's in the description. You can grab a time slot on my calendar. I'm more than happy to help you out. And if you're not there yet, that's okay too, right? You can subscribe to the channel so that the next video finds you where you are. Either way, hold on to yourself this week. I'll see you in the next one.